No, yes.
All over it.
Is it just as a program that runs with it?
Oh, I just downloaded one. I can send you one.
Ask you for it.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like a pirated copy. Thing that I got.
Name my laptop.
I don't think I want to put this into this.
That's what Pete says all the time. It's just that they don't have this selection. Yeah, I agree. You should say something because everybody's so on.
I'll also just in case someone else is phone to record and try and sync up the audio or just get a lecture.
Yeah,
We'll see how the audio plays out.
yeah, yeah. I've done it before. It's pretty good.
I think there is only one rule. If I talk to Sharad, you talk to Sharad. It's just a matter of common sense. When I talk to you, I'm talking to every single one of you as if it was a personal conversation. So it's just common sense that someone is talking to you, you talk to them at the same time. This unit 220 will take you through the biological aspects of biomechanics. So the way this links to 320 is this. 320 being advanced biomechanics. In the first year, you have to learn the basics of mechanics applied to abstract elements, particles, or whatever that might be. This time, we'll try to apply some of those principles and add a few more to practical, concrete objects, namely human tissue. And in advanced biomechanics, we see the two aspects, the mathematical aspects that you have seen in tech basis, plus this, the biological aspects, into one, and we try to make sense out of it. So that's the idea. As you know, advanced biomechanics is an elective unit, so you have to do it. If you don't want to, I will encourage you to only do it if you are passionate about it. If you are not, don't bother. Simply because it is hard, and if you're not into it, then why would you do it? Anyway, the first thing I would like to start off by saying to you is this. Science so far has been attached a dollar sign, and therefore is crap. And you should always question what you learn. Accepting something just because someone like me tells you it is the case is not right. The scientific way of thinking is always questioning. So what we know now might not be what we know a few years down the track. And what we know now is not what we knew a few years before. To give an example, at one point in time, we all thought that the planet was flat. Even the scientific community of the time thought that was the case. Of course, we know it's not true. So things are limited to our capacity to understand things. So, and whatever you guys get all have to be taken with that in mind. That, well, provided what we know is true, then this therefore is true. But if it isn't, it might be wrong. To give you an example, for a long time we have been saying to the community, you need to eat more carbs, and then fruit, then a little bit of saturated fat, and a little bit of protein, based on a misconception that some doctors still use today, that cholesterol is bad to you. That's what we know. But if you ask yourselves, how was that established? What did the first studies on cholesterol told you, and how were they done? Do you know how were they done? Do you know? On rabbits. eat meat naturally. No, they eat vegetables. Of course, if you load rabbits with meat, then they will have trouble. But that's not our case. And as you go through your semester or your studies, you will discover that that has been a farce all these years. Probably driven by the funds that are made up of selling drug-reducing cholesterol. There's big money there. So it's a quite convenient thing to keep spreading because there is someone that is actually profiting out of it. All this to say to you, always question what you know. Always. Don't just take it, but question. Questioning also requires that you have lateral thinking, not just linear thinking. That is, if A is bigger than B, and B is bigger than C, therefore A is bigger than C. That might not be the case. So always question, always think around, don't just think like that. It's very important. I presume some of you will become teachers. Some of you will become exercise physiologists, dealing with patients. Some of you will become physiotherapists and the like. So in whatever you do, your profession will take you to service others. You will be servicing people. Yes? Either as trainers, coaches, educators, or clinicians. You are servicing patients or athletes or students. So you need to have that ability to think laterally because not every one of us is the same as an ex-person. We will have different circumstances that make us end up where we are. And if we just think linearly, we are doomed. Even me as a teacher to you, I need to think on the fact that you guys learn differently from this guy. And I need to cater for it if I'm to do my job decently okay. So we need to start thinking differently. That's very important as scientists as you will be. One of the things why I think, and this ties up into the unit, it is a farce to say that cholesterol is bad in humans, is because your brain is 98% fat. So any drug-reducing cholesterol will also reduce the size of your brain, and that is a fact. If that's something you want to do, is that something you will recommend someone to do? Perhaps not. And why is that humans love fat? Is because that's the origin of our development. It has been studied and found that many years ago, humans developed the ability to walk as they trail behind elephants. That's how we developed the ability to walk. At some point we were on a tree, went down, and needed more energy, and as we found more energy, our brains developed. That's what it is. And we needed more energy, actually, because of that. And the best source of energy is animal fat. And that's how we ended up chasing elephants until one of them died, and then we had plenty of fat for us to eat. And that is a fact. I didn't know this until I found that in a few journals when I wanted to understand a bit gait. So the human body that you have is essentially developed to sustain long walking. So every single muscle that you have, every single bone that you have, every single ligament and tendon that you have are there, have developed to sustain and to support the purpose of long walking, which is what we did in search of food. So what we are going to do this semester, it is around the fact that your body is designed for walking. We are the best creatures on earth in sustaining long distance walking. There is no one like us. We are crack runners. Any average dog, untrained dog, can beat you on a sprint, isn't it? Any average fish that hasn't trained can beat you swimming. and the average kangaroo will beat the best of our human counterparts in jumping, either for height or for distance. Our bodies are not designed for it. But certainly you will not find any animal that can walk better than us. So our body is structured for it. And as soon as we start doing something other than that, our bodies will start to fail. It is as if you would have a BMW and treat it as a four-wheel drive. You know they are going to fail. Not because they are bad cars, it's just because you're using it for a purpose other than for what it has been designed. It's the same with us. As soon as we start sprinting consistently, as soon as we start lifting weights, as soon as we start stretching and doing things that we are not designed for, we will encounter injuries. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you see it, that is what we do in physical activity. We start sprinting, we start jumping, we start lifting weights, stretching beyond limits. And therefore, injuries will occur. So any physical activity that we are subject to other than walking brings with it implicit risk of injury, and we need to understand that. So this unit will equip you with the tools to enable you to understand that, to understand our function in relationship to walk, and to understand the design of our body in relationship to gait or to walking. So we'll start off by looking at the structure of the human body from a mechanical point of view and how that sustains gait. At one point in time, we will look at the basic mechanics of injury, as it is an intrinsic part of any physical activity that we do. Later on, we will talk about gait as such, trying to understand it a bit better. And then we will move on to the application of whatever we learn and whatever you have learned in week basis to specific sporting applications, which will occur towards the end of semester. Have I made sense so far? Yes? Okay, so we'll start off by looking at how solids respond to the interaction with external forces. Although this might sound to be, or appear to you a bit disjointed from the unit, it is not. So let's make an effort to understand the first weeks quite well, such that everything else will become a logical development of it. If we fail to understand that, we will struggle later on. But because these things are simple, they are not too complex, I trust that you guys will be okay. One thing that I will ask you to please do is to put your hand up as soon as you don't understand something. I should not make the assumption that I can explain things well to you, because that's not always the case. I have the idea of ACU student in my head, so I'm talking to that person, but that doesn't mean that all of you will fit into that mold. So whatever I say to you might not always be clear, so please give me the chance of making it clear to you by asking. That's the only way you can get that. I will try to get you talking, because you know that you don't learn you sitting and this guy talking to you. No matter how sexy I might be, you will not learn much if you are passively listening to me. So I will challenge, I will ask you, not to hassle you, but to actually get you understanding and interacting. That is the main purpose. And you come to uni for that. Okay. I don't know why you laugh when I say I was sexy. Joke. Okay. Let's imagine that we have an ideal object such as that. That could be a string. That's the simplest I can come up with. When you apply a force to that string, this string will always, whatever this string is made up of, will always stretch. A lot or a little, but it will stretch. That's the force. And let's define this length here as its resting length. So that is the length of the string when there is nothing acting on it. We call that when the string is unactuated. There is nothing acting on it. It will naturally have a length. So we call that resting length. For this resting length. When the string is acted by a force such as F, doesn't really matter how much that force is, the string stretches by this much. And we call that stretch. Does that make sense to you guys? Such that the length of the string is the sum of the resting length plus the stretch. Yes, that's kind of obvious. When there is no force, when the force is 0, the length of the string is equal to its resting length, simply because the stretch would be 0. Because this force is acting outwards, is making the string bigger or longer, we call this a tensile force because it is stretching. So just to put it more technical, a tensile force will cause the string to stretch such that the length of the string will always be equal to its resting length plus the stretch. Is that good? Clear? Simple? Let's have something slightly different. And let's say let's have, instead of a string, what is that?
Coil.
A coil or a spring. Yeah. So we call this a spring. Unlike the spring can be stretched if the force is tensile force acting outwards, or it can also be, what is the word? Compressed. It can be compressed by a compressive force. And it will compress by a given length. Let's just call it x. So this will then be the resting length of the spring, and this is the compressed length of the spring. And I'm sure you can write up the equation of it. How would that be? What would the relationship between Lx and L0 are in a spring? Yes, it will simply be L equals resting length minus the amount that the spring has been compressed. And again, this is 0 if there is no force, if there is no compressive force acting on the spring. Yep. So I just want that to be established. It's too early to have a question, but just in case, do you have any question? No, so far so good. Suzanne? Yes? 1768, if I don't remember well, there was a guy in the UK who probably didn't have anything else to do and realized that there was a relationship between the stretch on the string and the force being applied. So that the force was proportional to the stretch, which simply means the more force, the more stretch. The less force, the less the stretch. This guy who didn't have anything else to do back then is Hooke, Sir Lawrence Hooke, and because of that we call this relationship between the stretch and the force as a Hooke's law. And when you see the word law, it means that it's a fact, properly established. When you see theory, it might not be the case, but that is what we think is the case, but we don't know. But when you see law, that means that has been experimentally established again and again. So this is a fact. Again, just to rephrase that, Hooke's law establishes that there is a direct relationship between the stretch on an object and the amount of force that is being applied causing that stretch on it. And that relationship has been quantified by using a simple plot. Okay, let's have a force and let's have a stretch here. If we get a string, any string, and we apply a force of 100 newtons to it, and this is just hypothetical. And if because of this force of 100 newtons being applied on the string, the object stretches, just to say a figure, by 5 centimeters, which is 0.05 meters. How much do you think the string will stretch if we apply a force of 200 newtons? Sorry?
We double.
It will double. Yeah. So what you are saying to me, which is true, is that the relationship between the force and the stretch is linear. If you double the force, double the stretch. If you have the force, you have the stretch. Goes together. And that is reflected in a linear relationship, straight line. Is that okay? Question for you guys. Say we have two different strings. That is force and that is stretch. That is force and that is stretch. Two different strings. Say A and let's call this B. A has the force stretch relationship given by that line, and B has that same relationship given by this line. Now I want you to tell me, I'm just going to and the other one is a cotton. String. Which one is which?
B, the rubber band.
B is rubber band, and A is the cotton string. Is that true for all of you? Yes? Are you sure?
No. We are not sure.
Yes, please.
B's cotton.
Sorry?
Would A be the cotton string because the grain is tied up? It's a harder material, so it's more force to stretch.
Can you say it louder, please?
A has a higher gradient, therefore it takes more force to get more stretch. So cotton string, you naturally think is a harder and more dense material, so it's taking more force to stretch.
You got against it, that's good. Is that all right? All of you? Yeah, that makes sense, that's it. You need more force to get a piece of stretch out of it. So this relationship between the force and the stretch, one is linear, straight line, you double the force, double the stretch. But two, that's what you just have said to me. It is object specific. There will be objects that are harder to stretch than others, and therefore that will be manifested in the type of force and stretch relationship they have. The slope of the lines are different. That is, you have force, you have a stretch here, you have force, and you have stretch there. So those two slopes are different. And that different slopes are specific for each material you might be dealing with. That is, to give an example, trabecular bone will have a particular value. Cortical bone will have a different value. Tendon tissue will have a different value of it from ligament, and muscle tissue will have a different value to it as well. So it's object specific. And that relationship between F and X describes how hard they are, essentially, how stiff these objects are. Hooke's law is quantified by using this relationship. Where obviously so you have the four variables featuring in that equation being given a name. Force, obviously, L0, as you know, is the resting length, X is stretch, and a variable such as omega is being introduced as the variable that describes the specific material you are dealing with, the modulus of elasticity. Essentially describe how hard it is to stretch a given object. And that modulus of elasticity will vary between materials, and it is actually what describes each material. Do you understand this question well, this equation well? Yes? Can I ask you then a question? I'm asking because that name is a bit misleading. Just look at the equation and see how that will relate to the line.
Is that the same modulus of elasticity in the same modulus of stiffness?
Yes.
So is it B?
Yes. No, it will, yes, it will actually be A.
Okay.
It's harder to stretch. So that's why I was asking the question, because I know from a fact that name is misleading the name. So you might want to treat this as stiffness. Can you see, or can you read that being stiffness? Yes? Okay. So the higher the one, yes.
The stiffness is the lambda only or lambda on L node?
Sorry?
The stiffness is only lambda or lambda on L node?
It's really, this is a constant quantity,
Yeah.
doesn't change, so you could treat it as that only, or both, because it's a fixed value. Okay, now the question that I have for you is this. Say you have two pieces of strings of exactly the same material. It just happens that one has this resting length and the other one has that resting length. Obviously one is longer than the other. The question for you is, which one is easier to stretch?
The same.
B.
They are the same material, exactly the same material. Which one is easier to stretch?
No, but D?
Won't they be both the same if they're made out of the same material? You said stretch, it doesn't say tool length.
No, as you say, you want to stretch them by, say, 1 centimeter, both of them.
stretch on the same material, so the exact same stretch.
Think about those brushes. Just talk about amongst yourselves. What do you think? Yes?
Are we assuming that both of them are
Yes.
then it's based on that would be B for a larger resting length. So hence the value that it is larger.
Yes.
So they're both not resting, they'll be both the same stretch rate. So one will be longer than the other,
Yeah.
but the force of both will stretch both by a certain centimeter or two, will be the same force both, because they're both the same material.
Yeah, but the question is which one, on which of them you have to spend less force or more force if you want to stretch them by the same quantity. They're both the same? Okay. Yes? We know that? Okay. Correct? Yeah. I'm just rearranging the equation. Yep. Probably didn't have to. Okay, no, sorry. That's crap. Let's just make an assumption. Let's give value to this, it will be clear. Say the modulus of elasticity for both is 2 newtons. I'm just making that up. Yes? Be the same for both. Say the resting length for A is, say, 1, just to make it easy for us to work on. The resting length for B, let's just say, is 2. Yes? And say we want the stretch for both of them to be half of that. The question is, in which of these two cases we need to spend less force, isn't it? Yep. So we just say for A, the force will be equal to modulus of elasticity, we said is 2, resting length 1 times the stretch 0.5, and that is equal to 1 Newton. Is that correct? Are you okay with that? Yep. And for B, the force is equal to modulus of elasticity 2, resting length 2, stretch 0.5, which gives us 0.5. So which one is easier to stretch than B? I want this to make sense to you. Don't accept it. If it doesn't make sense, please ask. Yes. We are just studying in the values. Why? Because the stretch of an object really is proportional to the resting length.
But then you said the resting length of
The resting length is different. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Completely?
Yeah.
Just to say, if you have something this long, and you have something this long, correct? If you want to stretch the two of them by the same margin, in the case of the shorter one, you have to double its length, whereas for the longer one, you just need to stretch a bit. So you
Are we stretching with the same length?
yes, the stretch is the same. The x value is the same. What will be different is the force. Does that make sense?
It's relative
Yeah.
to the size.
It's relative to the size of the string. Like 1 centimeter,
Okay,
10,
what
10%.
does that mean in
1 centimeter
practical
font is
terms?
like
Why
20.
no
That's
for understanding this makes any sense to us?
Yeah.
And I will tell you why. Out of these two things, we can come up with two conclusions. One is that longer objects are easier to stretch. The other one is that shorter objects are harder to stretch. Correct? So in situations in which you want the stretch to take place, then you would have a longer object. In situations in which you want stability to take place, you would probably go for shorter objects. Does that make sense? So if you want something easy to stretch, compliant, then you will go for a longer piece of material. If you have something that is for stability, you would like to have something that is short, based on Cook's law. And we have demonstrated that by using this simple example. If you think of the length of the ligaments holding your bones, they are essentially short. Yes? Because you wouldn't have stability if your ligaments were longer. You will lose that. Does this make sense? Yeah, good. Tell my man, not here. Okay. So let's just write it. This can also apply for compression. So it can apply for extension, or it can apply for compression. Yes? On your notes, you have some questions that you can review. Okay. We have so far spoken about one string. This time we will talk about multiple strings, more than one. Remember that all the discussions that we are having apply equally to stretching as it does to compression. Please keep that in mind. It's just that it will be repetitive if I do the same thing in compression. Strings can be arranged in essentially in two ways, two different ways, one of which is what we call parallel, where the strings actually have the same direction, so they never intersect. And the other arrangement of them is in series, where the end of one string is met by the beginning of the next string, but they both share the same direction, they go in the same direction. We have these two basic forms. Everything else is a combination of them. So strings can be arranged in parallel, can be arranged in series. Let's just look at what happens in parallel, first of all. Say you have an object, whatever this object is, made up of 3 strings. And you subject this group of strings to a force of 9 newtons. How much is each string subject to? 3. Because the force is split between the number of the strings acting together. So the force will be split among the 3 in equal quantity, 3 newtons each. Because each string is subject to less force, not 9 but only 3, the stretch they will undergo is reduced compared to how it would be if there was only one string. Does that make sense? Or not? So it will be less stretch. The more strings you have, the less stretch you obtain. Or alternatively, you will have to spend more force to achieve the same stretch. Does that make sense? All of you are happy with it? Yeah? Good. Again, if you don't understand something or if you are not happy with something, please ask. Okay, so that is kind of so out of this, if we want an object to be more stable and less stretchy, so to speak, we would like that object to be made of as many strings as possible. Instead of having 2, might have 100. So the object will be harder have just said before, if the object is short, it's not so hard to stretch. So we have two strategies by which objects can be really stiff, by making them thick or out of many units, and by making them short. And if you want something to be more compliant and flexible, you will like it thinner, that is less strings and longer. Then the object, whatever this object is, can stretch a bit more. Again, just out of it, we can say that has to be made up of many units and lots of strings. Has to be short. Yes, if you want something that is more compliant, you want as thin as possible, that is less units and long. So this guy is easier to stretch than this guy here. Correct? Yes or no? And the reasoning for this is that in this thicker object there will be more units, and each unit will be sharing less of this force because that force has to be shared by them all, so it's less per one. In this thinner object you have less units, so more force is absorbed by each of them. You have a question?
Yeah, is the opposite true for compression?
No, for compression it's exactly the same. If you want to compress two springs as opposed to one, you will need more force. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand skeletal tissue. So
It will come back to it. For instance, and this is something I like, you guys know we have muscles. Many of them, some of you have them quite well developed. Don't look at me, by the way. So you have, which one is the strongest muscle of the human body?
Is it the glute? Yeah.
Think of Serena Williams.
I think it's the glute maximus. Yeah.
So the gluteus maximus is the strongest muscle that we have. And it's not it's only logical. If you think of us, which other that's why my mind was working there. If you think of ourselves, we are probably the only creature that is upright. Yes? Our hip is constant extension. So extensor muscles will have to be strong and well developed, and that's the gluteus maximus. Other animals, they are usually bent. You think of gorillas, for as strong as they are, they have no butt. Yes, because they are flexing most of the time. There's no need in them to have the gluteus maximus well developed. So if you know, the gluteus maximus, when it's trained obviously, is the strongest muscle the human body has, because it's the thickest one, has the larger cross-sectional area, is the strongest. And as you will learn later on, it only crosses one joint. The tendon that attaches it, and the tendon that attaches any muscle that is super strong, tend to be like this, short and thick, because we need this type of tendons if they are going to deal with larger forces. Wow, if you think of the muscles that are articulating the fingers, where are they located? The muscle, where are they? Here, where? Yep. They have this long tendon. We are not really overly strong compared to your lower limbs with this. So we can afford to have this type of tendons to service these weaker muscles. But if you think of the tendons that are servicing the stronger muscles tend to be of this design. Lots of units, that is large cross-sectional area, and generally short. And that's why those muscles only cross one joint, the hip, for instance. There are some exceptions to it, but we will talk about that later on. I just thought I would take the chance of this conclusion to link it back to it. Are you okay with it? Yeah, good. Now, series arrangement. Say that. You apply a force to it. Say 20 newtons. How much force each of these fibers is subject to? 20 newtons. They share the same force. In this case, the force is not summative. You don't add them. It's 20. Just that force goes through the connection. Because the force for each of them is 20 newtons, they will stretch more. Does that make sense? If you compare to the case of fibers in parallel, so you have in parallel, the force is reduced because it has to be split, therefore the stretch on each of them is less. But when you have them in series, the force is not split, the full force goes through each of them, and therefore they will stretch more. Which means that out of that 20 newtons, you will have two stretches, which can be added. So this type of arrangement lends itself for a stretchy structure because you add up the stretch for each of the units. Whereas in the parallel arrangement, you don't do that because what you do is you split the force. Does that make sense? So objects of this nature are more flexible, prone to a stretch. So if you want something that will stretch a lot, you would like to have something of this nature. Looking at the molecular structure of rubber band is pretty much a collection of in-series molecules that enable the rubber band to stretch quite a lot. Okay. Okay, during these discussions, we have addressed two things. One, when we did talk about the difference of stretching a longer and a short string, we marginally mentioned that the stretch in reality will have to be looked at in proportion to the resting length. The stretch itself is not a good measure of what happened to an object. These two objects might have the same modulus of elasticity, but we have seen that it was easier to stretch a longer object that it was a shorter object. We needed less force to stretch this, even though they are the same material. That in itself brings about the need of standardizing the measurement of this in relationship to the resting length. So in that sense, the stretch is not a good measure of what we are trying to achieve. We need another variable that compares the stretch in relationship to the resting length. Does that make sense? So we need to relate the stretch in relationship to the resting length. And as you know, the stretch is the actual length minus the resting length, and that's divided by resting length. Do you remember this? That's what we did at the beginning, Suzanne. Where is it? Yes, that's what we need to begin with. Okay? Suzanne. That means that the stretch equals length minus resting length. Correct? That is what we have here. And that is what we call strain. And the symbol for strain is epsilon, that inverted 3 symbol. So strain is a measure of the stretch in relation to the object resting length. And therefore, it can be expressed as a percentage. The strain can be written as L minus 4 times 100. Does that make sense to you guys? Just express it as a percentage instead of saying 0.5, 50% strain or 20% strain, just to make it a percentage. Okay. What time did you start today? 9? 8? You are young, are you? And tough? Yeah? Yeah? Good. Okay. Okay, guys, don't get too excited. We just said that if you have say 20 newtons here and 20 newtons here, same object, same length, same modulus of elasticity and everything. On that, out of those two, which do you think is under more, say, strain or stress, or which units are coping with greater force?
The top one.
The first one? Yes? So the whole load of 20 is being shared by 2, therefore each of them takes 10. Yeah? In the second case, the whole load of 20 is shared by 4, therefore each of them takes 5. If, pardon me, if we make an object out of this, which of these two will have greater cross-sectional area?
The bottom one.
The bottom one. Yes? So you then can say with all confidence that the larger the cross-sectional area, the less force acts on each unit. You know what is the name of that? It's what you experience before exams. Stress. So stress can be calculated simply by the force acting on the object and divided by the cross-sectional area. Stress? Omega.
Omega.
Yes. It's just this. You need to learn Greek. Huh? No, it's Greek. Yes? Pardon me? Does anyone know what CSA is?
Cross-sectional area.
Sectional area.
Cross-sectional area. Yes? So I will need to. Therefore, instead of working with force and stretch, it is best, as you have seen from this example, to work with stress and strain. So at the beginning we had a block of force and stretch. We can replace that quite safely by the stress-strain relationship. It should be equally linear. Luis, next lecture don't sit next to Georgia. She's okay. When when we had this, we said that the F on X, and actually we didn't say it, sorry. Is a measure of the stiffness of that. So we can write K equals F on X, where this is the stiffness part of it. I didn't do that then. Which essentially describes how hard or easy it is to stretch or to respond an object. Apologies, I didn't make this comment then. just that this is the formal definition. Okay. When we do
This is all in the
the
notes.
stress and strain,
I was doing it for the game.
here we have stress, here we have strain. The modulus of the slope of this line is what we call the Young modulus. So the Young modulus and stiffness are very much describing the same phenomena. It's just that Young modulus is more accurate.
What's the VA? Is that
Sorry, which one? The E? Yeah, that's a symbol for Young modulus. I don't know why.
so it's stiffness but more accurate?
More accurate, yeah, because it takes into account the cross-sectional area and the resting length. So in general, if you get into clinical aspects of biomechanics, that's what you're going to deal with. I should stop taking drugs.
Should come out on the weekend.
Okay. Are you okay with this? Yes. It's very much the equivalent of the stiffness.
Oh, okay.
But instead of using force and stretch, we use the stress and strain.
Oh, okay.
And the resting length. Don't be too loud. Okay, guys, are you okay so far? Yes? Actually, you're doing quite well. I thought we weren't going to do as far as we have today. So you either are light or you are actually killing it. I would like to do the second one. Now,
Next time I do, I'm going to bring a loop tap or something and stick it. And I've got like 20 minutes left, so when this starts, I have to get my phone down. Yeah, it will be. Yeah, I'll bring laptop, something to stick next time. Yeah, we do anything to stick it on.
do you need a break? Yes, take a break.
I'll give you half my can of tuna roll, so that's what you want. How is it these lectures? Yeah. It's not really that hard. I'll be able to pass some stuff. Hey, yes. Yes. So we got to get these pair of, have you seen the Jordan Eclipse shoes? They're like Nike free runners. He's like brought out his own free runner style shoes. How good's this?
Not a big shoe person there.
You're not. Go knock out some deadlifts. That's what I would have done.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I did that today actually.
Yeah, I had upper back. I did legs. I did squats. Sorry, yesterday. Shy speed and strength.
Oh yeah. Can't wait till I haven't squatted for like a month. My knee's been a bit
Yes.
funny.
What's wrong with it?
It's actually there's nothing
Yes.
wrong with my knee.
Yes.
There's nothing actually wrong with the knee. When I squat, I've got a twist in my body, so it's creating like a torque at my knee, and there's
Through
just
scoliosis, or is it just
just I'm tight in like this rib, and it's making me.
trigger point, mate? What are you doing?
I know I have to do actually like rehab exercises like motor learning. It's fucking annoying.
So you got more muscular on one side than the
Yeah,
other?
so yeah, one just naturally contracts more than the other. It's fucking so shit. I just want to squat.
Front squatting would help counteract that a little bit.
Mate, I just hear this. I'm getting physio. Like I can deadlift as much as I want, but you just said.
What was he saying? He said something.
yeah,
He said something too.
Yeah, I just can't squat, so it's annoying.
This unit's so good.
What's that?
These units, this subject, so good.
Yeah.
How'd you go with most of that stuff?
This, I was doing it before you came for 2 hours. I was been doing this, and it's kind of like it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
If you read that, or if you watch this and then now read that, it's a breeze. Same thing if you read that and come here, it's a.
I think I wanted to try and free up this day to try and train some clients, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to come into the majority of these, because I haven't gone to, I didn't go to any lectures at all last semester. Zero. Big job. Why'd you pull out a king in the bag, Ross? You know how disappointed I am? Yeah. That was a good answer. Yeah. See how disappointed I am? Yeah. Mate, do you want to get dropped, son? That's my protein. How old are you again, Ross?
24.
Are you the same age or a year older?
33 almost.
Oh fuck, you have to call me son.
This has got like 20 minutes left, I think. 16 minutes, gonna die any time now. Get the phone out.
Oh, one sec. If we can stick with those PowerPoints around.
There's nothing.
Fuck, my laptop's fully charged, eh?
Huh?
If I had the program, we could have used mine.
That's alright. Like, this is like fucking old. This is a dinosaur laptop that it died
It's also going to be pretty intense recording something in HD's quality. It's going to drain the battery a little bit. So it has to be on 100% by the time you get in here.
Yeah. It's alright. If this has got 40 minutes left, I'm sure I've got enough memory to... If the memory dies on this, we'll go... How much memory do you want your phone?
Yeah, cool.
Go off. I'm sure it'll be... It's plenty. She's in my... one of my classes, actually. One of my tunes.
You should get into that.
I gotta make friends. For sure.
This, as in this lecture or the whole thing? Fuck, yeah, I don't have much space on my phone, eh?
It's alright. I've got like 19 gigs on my phone, I think, so that should be enough.
I've got, because I record everything for jiu-jitsu, like,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
it fills up a lot of fucking space.
Yeah.
I don't care about having a break, eh? Like, I just want to fucking
Yeah,
go
so get it
for it.
done.
She's hot now.
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Invited me out on the
I'm
weekend.
like, kill my life. Got a little camera. Nah, I think it's just missing actually.
So I wonder if because he doesn't record it, I wonder if he just wings what he does. Like if he's like, we need to do this, 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 and this. Because he says we covered each one what he thought we would. So
He must follow it on his note, on the notes that he on the notes.
Yeah.
On the notes that he wrote.
Fuck, I'm just not even going to talk to him as a girl.
No, he's just going off the notes that if you tell him off the thing, it's
So you have that object and it's stressed by an external force. And therefore here would be a strain, we know that. And the force comes this way. Comes out. How much of that force is stressing the object? All of it?
Depends on the ground force pushing upwards.
Say this is fixed.
It's fixed.
Say it is on the ground.
Same force will push back.
Yes. But he has, what's your name, sorry?
Eddie.
Eddie?
Yeah.
But Eddie said it will only be stressed by this component. Yeah? That force we call Fn, normal. Normal force acting perpendicular to the cross section of the ray. So that stress is equal to Fn divided by the cross sectional area. Because there will be some of that force acting horizontally. Yes? Yes? Sine and cross, you know. And this force we call shear force. So you have, in this case, two components to the force. Normal force and shear force.
Is shear force horizontal?
Yes. So the stress, as we understand so far, is caused by the normal force that might compress. Yes. Normal, perpendicular to the cross-sectional area. So much for symbols, that if you understand the equation, is good. shear force will cause shear stress, which is equal to shear force divided by the same cross-sectional area. I'm just highlighting the fact. It's not rocket science. Once you understand one, you understand the other. It's just breaking it down into two components. What we are going to deal with at this level of fluid mechanics is shear stress and normal stress. That's it. And most of it will be normal. And you should understand that the design of our body, you name it, ligament, tendons, cartilage, bone tissue, obey exactly these basic rules. And we will see that later on. That's why it's important for you to understand this, because our body is shaped in response to these stress. Do you have any question? No? Other than what time do we finish? Okay, we have two more things that I want to cover. Maybe not. Are you tired?
Yes.
I have never believed that big disappointment. You broke my heart. Right, that's the way. Okay. This is simple, this is common sense, but we need to cover it for completeness. In how many ways can you destroy a hard mark, an object? You can apply stress tensile, you can compress it,
And smash it.
you can bend it, you can twist it. Yes? So we have tensile, that's your object. The forces are axial, that is go through the axis, outwards. You have compressive, is the same as tensile, but this time the forces act inward. Yes? We have bending. And to bend, you need a force on one way, a fulcrum, and a force on the other way. Yes? You have twisting. Have forces acting shear in opposite directions. Okay. This is also called torsion. In this case, we are really dealing with force that causes rotation. How do you call that?
Oh, torque.
Yes. Moment or torque. final thing I want to go with you is this. Okay, let's look at this. Can you all see that? What is this? Sorry?
Very big pen.
Thank you. I didn't know how to call that. Okay, we have this pen lead here, and we will subject this to a force. In this case, I cannot really apply a tensile force because I will fail miserably. I cannot really apply a compressive force because I probably will fail miserably. Torsion might be a bit hard, but the one that we could apply to this is a bending force. Yeah, it can bend. So we apply a force that is bending, and the more force we apply, the deformation increases in that same proportion. So we could easily draw the stress strain curve for it. This is stress plus strain. It will be a linear relationship. We call this stage. That is when you apply a force, changes its shape, and then you take the force and then it goes back to where it was. We call that elastic stage. That is when you apply a stress on an object, it strains. Once the stress is ceased, then the strain of the object goes back to have the same shape it had to begin with. Yes?
So does the force have to increase the more you,
Yes.
the more you bend it?
Yes. I will have to apply more and more force because I'm deforming it by more and more. Yep. We just continue to this, the force increases, the strain increases. Yep. But obviously, as with everything else, if I keep stretching this, there will be a point in which the object will not return to its original shape. Yep. That means that at that point, we have reached the yielding point, time after which the object remains deformed. And that is what we call the plastic stage. So when we alter the shape of the object permanently, it is no longer elastic, but it is plastic. And I surely won't be able to achieve that today. If I keep applying a force, there will be a point in which the object will fail. That's the ultimate strength point. Time after which the object will fail or break. So mechanically we call it the point of failure. Yes. In this case, will be bending. And indeed, so let's just call this proper, elastic, plastic, and failure. Any injury, for whatever severe or mild it is in the human body, occurs when a bit of tissue gets to that point. So injury is not too sophisticated, it's really simple, provided we understand it. In the case of the human tissue, the plastic stage is quite short. As soon as we get to the yielding point, injury will occur right away. Ligaments do show this.